second most common mistake Daniel and I see throughout the whitetails range is we get there and they've already had a logger in there thinking, boy, we did great, but they had what we call tree hugger syndrome. They just couldn't stand to kill too many trees, and there's not enough sun coming down to the ground to stimulate those grasses and forbs. Not thinning hard enough. A really good common recommendation for thinning for wildlife purposes, you're pretty far on that continuum towards the wildlife habitat side, is 60 basal feet per acre. And that simply means you would have 60 trees per acre that had a diameter of 1 foot at 4.5 feet tall, or what we call breast height, or 126-inch trees, or 32-foot trees. And the magic to that is you could have more small trees or fewer big trees, but the crowns are going to allow about 50% or so of the sun's energy to reach the ground and stimulate that good growth. Again, there's a difference between maximizing future timber harvest potential and maximizing wildlife habitat potential. Sometimes they overlap, depending on the tree species and where you're working. Sometimes they can be vastly different. And then thin the appropriate trees. Too often we see where loggers take the very best trees for wildlife, because they're high value trees like white oaks or something, and leave the rest. That's high grading. You don't want to be in a high grading situation. Wildlife, recreational landowners, whatever, we want to leave the best trees and thin out the lower quality trees. Loggers don't like that because lower quality trees don't bring them as much money at the mill. They could do the same amount of work per day or week, but not make as much money. And that all is in the consideration when negotiating the price and the return to the landowner and the return to the forester and logger. Please, 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 and I see this all throughout America, especially in hardwood forests. Don't accept the, oh, well, we're only going to take trees that are 14 inches or larger or 16 inches or larger. That's often the best big oaks out there. That's high grading. You're taking the very best trees and leaving the understory, which could be elms or maples or whatever, smaller crooked oaks that we're trying to grow through a closed canopy forest. That's called a DBH cut. We're cutting everything a certain size and larger. Well, you think about that, unless there's a disease or something, you're definitely high grading. You're taking the best and leaving the rest, which decreases the value of that property.